I believe our guest has joined us, so I will begin the event formally. So, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. This is Suleiman Ahmed.
And this is Namra, and we would like to welcome you all to this webinar organized by IMechE, which is Institution of Mechanical Engineers, Pakistan Group.
The institution has effaciously championed the ideals of driving societal growth through engineering and has stimulated and invigorated young engineers across the globe to do the same. Today's podcast is another step in pursuit of that very goal. Today, a high unemployment rate is one of the major problems that our government is tackling. Generally, unemployment is caused by three main factors: the inability of a country to provide enough vacancies, low educated or unskilled human resources, and a weak capacity for national capital formation. However, there are ways to alleviate unemployment, like providing education or training to those who are unemployed, as well as fostering the spirit of entrepreneurship. So, fueled with the aim of cultivating a self-sufficient and business-minded approach within Pakistan, today's talk will be focused on re-energizing our youth by reinforcing the concept of an entrepreneurial mindset and effectuation theory, helping you all grow and stabilize your businesses and startups. We will be joined by our esteemed guest and motivational speaker, an entrepreneurship champion in her domain, Dr. Sara Qureshi. She will help you all reconnect with what it takes to create your own path in this first session of our podcast series, The Lightbulb Moment. Dr. Sara Qureshi is a self-made woman in the truest of meanings. She completed her master's in aerospace dynamics, followed by a PhD in aerospace propulsion from Cranfield University in the UK. Taking initiative, she started her own business based on her passion and worked to take it to new heights. Today, she holds the distinction of being the CEO and founder of Pakistan's first contrail-free aircraft engine company. In addition, she also has the license to traverse the skies as a private pilot. So if there's anyone who knows how to create their own opportunities and forge their own destiny, it is her. We'd like to show you a small video that Dr. Sara has provided us so that you understand a little bit more about her work.
Wow, thanks Suleiman for sharing the video. I feel like this really sets the tone for our webinar today, and it's enough to keep the audience hooked till the very end. I can see that we have a lot of participants. We have members from IMechE's executive committee who have joined us. I would like to welcome them all. Thank you everyone for joining. And before we begin, I would just like to mention that you can direct your queries to either IMechE Pakistan Group or Samir bin Khalid, and we'll entertain all the questions towards the end. Moving on to Dr. Sara, first of all, thank you so much for taking out time to be with us today, and welcome to the webinar. I hope you're doing well.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Okay, so Dr. Sara, we'll start off with the questions. As you heard, the theme for today's webinar is the light bulb moment. So we are very much interested in knowing that what was that light bulb moment for you? Like, what was your eureka moment?
Okay, I think you can't say that there is one light bulb moment. It's always a journey, and I think it starts with, the journey starts with self-recognition. First of all, you have to understand what you want to do, where your aptitude is, where your passion is. So when you do that self-identification, then you plan a career path according to that. So I think that that started for me very early in life. I think by when I was doing my O levels and A levels, I was already very focused what I wanted to do. I knew that I would be doing science and engineering, um, and so that's basically. And I had some interest in flying as well. That's basically where it
Essen, can you unmute her? Oh, you got
can you
mute.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
आप इससे पहले आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही थी कि नहीं आ रही थी?
Yes, yes, we heard you. बस अभी 2-3 मिनट के लिए got muted.
Okay. So basically you need to start with the focus and with self recognition and identification, and then you know gradually every accomplishment or every goal is like stepping stone towards your focus. So as I said, I was very focused from an early age, and that's why I opted for mechanical engineering for my undergrad. और उस जमाने में NAST में they did not allow female to opt for mechanical engineering, and but I had to you know persist my way through it, and then I was the only girl student in a class of 60 boys at IMechE college. That was the first batch of girls in that college. There were 5 other girls in the computer section. And then later, you know, moving on with my focus, I joined the flying school while I was working in Lahore, and I learned flying and got a private pilot license. And then you know, while I was working, I applied to University, where I also learned acrobatic flying during my master's and during my PhD. And while I was doing master's, I also searched for a few PhD options within the university. And after I think a year or two, I came back to Pakistan. I got married, and after that, I went back to do my PhD in aerospace propulsion from the same university, and I continued to learn acrobatic flying as well. And later on, I think because the university always highlighted the importance of entrepreneurship and applied research and the societal impact of your research, my research won a student prize for a conference on you know green technologies in Monaco, and that's where I kind of you know realized that I would need, you know, in order to take my research forward, I would be setting up my own company. um, so there were many, I would say there were many bulb moments. And then another one was that when I wanted to when I started research on my PhD, I wanted to work on a supersonic um jet engine, or low noise supersonic jet engine. But then I opted, you know, because that was a time when a lot of work was done on environmental engines. So I started working on the contrail free aero engine. And then now later, during COVID, since there was some, you know, some peace of mind, I patented my supersonic engine as well with my co-inventor. And so although there's a gap when I conceived the idea and when we got it patented and granted, but then that's what light bulb moments are all about. It's like you know, as I say that you always get good ideas, but the most important thing is the focus. You have to maintain your focus, because a lot of students and professionals usually, you know, that is where um, they have a disadvantage, because you know they keep getting new ideas, and they lose their track and they lose their focus, because um it's a very long road, and it's a long, tiresome journey. But there is success at the end of it only if you persist in your focus, and every step that you take is like another, is a step in the right direction towards your focus, which will complement your journey.
Right. So we're very glad that you shared your story. I'm sure it will serve as an inspiration for a lot of people. You mentioned that you patented your invention. I know that it's a very long, tedious process. So did you patent it in Pakistan or the UK? And would you like to share your experience of that?
I think we will talk about patents a little later. Let's just start with, I think I sent you a list of topics that we wish to discuss. So we would, because let's start with studies, engineering studies in postgrad
Sure.
and undergrad.
Mhm.
And then when, we go stage-wise into entrepreneurship and into patents.
The floor is all yours. Please go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I think we would talk about graduate studies in engineering, and then a lot of students asked me about, you know, uh, basically doing postgrad in aerospace. So I just want to tell you that, you know, the difference between your graduate studies and your postgraduate is that your grad study is more theoretical, right? It is very important, extremely important to build the right concept, because that is what lays the foundation of your entire career path in life. So it doesn't really matter, the university. I mean, a lot of people want to go abroad for their undergrad studies, but you even if you're doing it here or you're doing it abroad, you would be reading the same books and you would be building the same concepts and same theories. So so that is where the focus should be, and building up the concepts and having a very strong theoretical background. That's what undergraduate study is about, and that's where the focus should be. Then when you come to postgraduate studies, that is more an application of your basically theory. It's an application of what you studied, and primarily through research, and that is where the environment or the institution that you choose becomes very critical. It has to be the one that is, conducive to research and to practical learning in your particular field. And then a lot of people, students ask me about postgraduate studies in aerospace. So aerospace is a very vast field, but it is an applied field. Like we have some core mechanical engineering fields, such as the mechanical engineering and electrical engineering, um, civil engineering. There are all core fields where you study, you develop a theoretical background and a learning approach. So then in applications, you get aerospace, you get automotive, you get a lot of other subjects. So you can do aerospace as an undergrad degree, but even if you do a mechanical or an electrical as an undergrad degree, you can always do aerospace as a postgrad degree. So if you're doing core mechanical engineering, you would be able to do a number of specialized fields. You can choose from a number of specialized fields in aerospace engineering for your master's and for your PhD. And it is, aerospace is a very, very vast field. There is no one degree. There are different specializations, and because they're so intense in their own entity that, you have to choose from among them. So among the options that you have with undergrad in mechanical or aerospace is to specialize in flight dynamics, which is the study of the control systems of the aircraft or flight propulsion, which is like jet engines, the power plants. I've done my master's in flight dynamics and PhD in flight propulsion. Then you have aerodynamics, which is like how your aeroplane interacts with the air and how you use the science of air to generate, lift, and make it fly. Then you have CFD, which is computational fluid dynamics. That is again an offshoot of flight aerodynamics as well, but more for aerodynamics, you can go into experimentations with wind tunnels, or you can go into the simulation side with computational fluid dynamics. Then you also have structures, which is like the airframe of the aircraft, and structural studies. And then you have system studies, which is like different systems that go into the aircraft, which is how do you integrate them. That there's the electrical system, the hydraulic systems, the HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning system, there's the propulsion system, there's the electronic system, avionics system. So all these, there's the structure, airframe of the aircraft, there's the jet engine. So everything has to be well integrated in an aircraft. So that's the aircraft system studies. So these are all the options that you can choose from depending on your interest. And if you have a background in electrical engineering or electronics, then you can go into avionics, which is like the which basically controls the electronic side of the plane and the flight control systems, so like designing autopilots and pilot control systems, where you have the glass cockpits and the fly-by-wire mechanisms to drive the plane. So this is basically what study is all about. Secondly, I would, I believe our audience is all graduating engineers. So if you're looking into postgraduate studies in aerospace, these are the options that you would have. Secondly, if you're looking into employment, now that is another a very critical field. I personally believe that if you, after graduation, because as I mentioned that your undergrad studies is very theoretical, so it is always a good experience to work after your undergrad degree and gain some professional experience, and then later, based on that and based on your aptitude, choose whatever postgraduate study you would like to do, the exact specialization that you would want to undertake for your master's or your PhD, if you want to go into that direction. If you don't, you can always, there are two kinds of growth. Either you grow through academic development or academic studies, like your bachelor's, your master's, your PhD, or you continuously grow professionally, like with experience. Experience is also a kind of a learning, just like our studies are a kind of learning. We learn through books, but we also learn through experience. So you can take that route of learning through professional experience. But the important thing is your entry-level job is very critical. Now, after you graduate as an engineer, you generally have two kinds of options. Sometimes some jobs are very intellectually or professionally rewarding. They're not financially rewarding, they pay you very little, but they are professionally rewarding. You have a good learning curve. There is a lot of opportunity to learn, and also an opportunity for a diverse experience in different subjects or areas of specialization that you have, of engineering that you have studied. My experience is that for entry-level graduates, if you opt for a financially, a lot of students, they just want to, they're looking for good salaries. They want to go into a multinational and they want to start big. They want, they think it's a big badge to be earning a lot just after graduation. I personally don't think so, because my experience tells me that if at the entry stage, you opt for something which is only financially rewarding but not professionally rewarding, or does not have a lot of intellectual content or learning opportunities where your learning curve is not steep, then later on in life, your growth as a career professional is retarded, is affected. And however, if you opt for a job which is less paying, but your learning curve is steep, you are you're getting more opportunities to learn and apply your theoretical knowledge, then later in life there is a chance that you would do better and you would grow more as a professional, and then there will be many more better financially rewarding opportunities at your disposal. Okay, as a fresh graduate, all of us, almost all of us, we don't have any responsibilities. We don't have family responsibilities. We are not, so there is always a room to allow for a less financially rewarding or a less paying job. There's always everybody. I believe that all of us have that choice. Paid less, but we get a chance to learn. And it is in small companies and in startups, there is always a greater chance to learn, because in a smaller company, you are a very big part of a small company, and you have to wear many hats. You have to, your experience, your learning curve is steep, and your experience is very diversified because they have limited resources, and the entire resource does a lot of things that they have to do because they don't have specialized people for every job. For example, even in my startup, although I'm the CEO, but I also do a lot of technical work because I the propulsion side. I look after the propulsion side, and so I'm one has to wear many hats, which is very good for your personal growth. In a big company, you are in just one corner. A lot of students who opt for big companies, even for multinationals, for their internships, all they do in their internships is photocopying. So, maybe you can understand a big system. That's one thing you learn, how big systems work. But you're not really theoretically or subject-wise, you're not gaining much expertise. So this is my advice, and I would say that you need to make a very, very conscious choice for your first job and your entry level position. Secondly, the other thing that I notice is that a lot of graduates, they start jumping between jobs. Like, they take up one job and they've just started a job and they start applying for other jobs. And then after 3 months, they jump to another job. And after another 6 months, they jump to another job. Now, first of all, you cannot, benefit from any company, and the company cannot benefit from you unless you spend at least 2 years in that company. There is no learning. Like we insist our graduates to make at least a year's contract because we teach them and we invest our time and our efforts in them. But even for the graduates themselves, there's hardly any benefit that they can derive or any personal growth that they can derive unless they, at least make a conscious effort to remain associated with any company for 2 years. So again, and also that this is a very, it's a very turn-off point for other employers. Like, for example, when we get CVs for job applications, if I see somebody who's working for 3 months in a company, then they are applying here, that means that person is very restless and does not have a focus and does not have a perseverance. So these are all indicators. So the next employer would just disqualify, right? Because they know that you are not focusing on your current job, and later if they hire you, you would not focus on their job. You would again be applying for better opportunities, right? I mean, as far as growth is concerned, yes, you should look to grow and for better opportunities, but there has to be the there has to be a time domain, a time definition as well.
So I have a question. Sorry to interject you in the middle, but I have
Please.
a question very pertinent to whatever you said right now. So
Mhm.
you talked about how you train the newcomers in your organization. But before going to that, how did the whole process? How was that whole process for you? Like, how did you build up your own team, and how did you set the logistics for your assembly line? Where did you? How did you start sourcing the materials for your product and things like those? So can you talk a bit about that aspect?
Okay, we will talk about this in entrepreneurship, right? Because these are all questions related to entrepreneurship, how we set up a team, right?
Right. Okay.
And so let's just finish this studies now. If I mentioned about people who are looking for jobs, and also if they want to do postgraduate studies within aerospace. Now, the next thing that people want to do is, and they have a question is about research. Like if they want to go on into the academic side and you want to go into research as an engineer. So for that, I would want, you need to categorize research into, because a lot of students who are into making good final year projects and they want to carry that forward. We have two kinds of research. There's pure research and there's applied research. So pure research is like generally in pure sciences like physics, chemistry, bio, maths, most of the research is pure research. It's like just research on a different topic, and it is something that might not be might not have an application useful in the next century. And I can give you an example that the entire study on the atomic structure and quantum science started 100 years ago. Study on atomic structure started 100 years ago, and then it just like branched out into quantum mechanics, into particle physics, and to solid state physics. And the applications of that research is what we are using today, like your smartphones and your a lot of your electrical appliances, your solar cells, batteries, um, different drugs, genetics. A lot of all that is because of the research that was carried out in the last century, bothered about the outcome. It is just like scientists can publish positive results or negative results, success story, failure story, because everything is they have to publish a contribution to knowledge. So even if they identify that one method does not work or it gives negative results, that again is a contribution to knowledge. Like something works, that's a contribution to knowledge, but something that does not work is again a contribution to knowledge as well. But generally for engineers, we have more of applied research, which is like problem solving. Um, and that is where entrepreneurship comes in. Like this, that is the modern trends for engineers where they address local problems, they provide their own solutions, they address sustainable development goals in the world. And um, and then because every region has specific problems, every domain in the world has specific problems, so entrepreneurs through their research come up with custom solutions, like uh, for engineering students who come up with water filtration plants, solar cells, so solar batteries, power technology. um, there are different kinds. Even my own research on environment friendly engines is a form of an applied research. um, so again, like as an engineer, you can, if you are into research, there is like when you do research as a student engineer or in the academic domain, then in order to commercialize it, you have to go through the entrepreneurship, because the lab environment research is very different from a commercial product. So entrepreneurship is that bridge, basically. It teaches you how to use a product that you have created in your lab or something you've designed in your lab into a commercial product that could be sold and you can make money out of it. And if there is a and there would be a market if that, for example, your product is generating addressing a local problem, like if you have designed a solar cell, you are addressing the country's energy problem. So there's always a market for it. But then making one solar cell in the lab is very different from mass producing 100 solar cells and selling it in the market. So that is where the business component or the commercialization component is taught to engineers through entrepreneurship, because business professionals generally understand it. But as engineers and scientists, we have a different mindset. We think very differently. We approach problems very differently because we are always into this research mode, and we are looking for new and new ideas and innovations to counter problems and apply our theory to make products. So this is what entrepreneurship is about. And then so after you graduate, if you are not opting for a job and you want to take up research, then you have to you can undertake the academic route. You keep on inventing and innovating new products in your lab, and you keep publishing them as open source or even closed source publications in journals. The other option is that if you say that, yes, I have a product and I want to make a commercial, I have a design, I want to make a commercial product out of it, and I want to sell it in the market, I want to sell it to the world, then you would need to take the commercialization route, and you would need to go through the entrepreneurship area. And for that, generally, you don't go for open source research. You try to safeguard your intellectual property through patents. You patent your inventions and your design to secure them. Sometimes it's needed. Sometimes you're just applying a technology that has been there for 100 years, or you are combining two technologies, like, for example, making a solar car. You're just combining the battery technology with the automotive technology. They are both well-known technologies, and maybe there is a need to patent it, or there isn't a need to patent it. So and then working technologies, sometimes it is very the market. Sometimes some technologies are as from an engineering perspective are the best technologies, and you feel that they are a marvel of engineering, but they don't do very well in the market. So it's best to support all kind of innovation and all kind of technology, because we don't know, there's so many underlying parameters and factors that we wouldn't know how to take that to the market. So I think
ma'am, sorry for the interruption. Would just like to inform you that if it works for you, we would like to shift to audience questions by approximately 5 p.m. so that we can communicate with them directly as well, if that suits you.
You want to take questions by 5 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am, if your progress allows.
Yes, I am done with this. Things I wanted to highlight. Now, if you can come up with your questions, if you want to talk about my startup, we can talk about that. And
Sure.
Then later we can take questions for 5 minutes. So basically, I would now tell my startup as a case study on all the points that I've just mentioned. As I told you, I did my, core mechanical engineering. I did my, did my internships in the automotive Honda car plant and motorbike plant. My final year project was on engines, on a Toyota engine, designing a new gasket for measuring the temperature and ionization within the cylinder during the combustion process. And then, keeping that focus along, I did my internships, and then I joined I worked on the development of a CNG gasket, the compressed natural gas gasket for cars. Then I worked in another automotive design consultancy, developing go-karts, racing carts, doing some structural crashworthiness analysis on cars for accident safety, and it was more on the automotive design. And then I was a consultant and a trainer for CAD, CAM, and PI at another institute. So these are all experiences that I gained, and I learned flying as well. So these are all the experiences that I gained after my undergrad. And then I got my scholarship for my postgrad. Again, that was all aerospace, and my research was on drones for mid-air, designing an autopilot for mid-air refueling of drones. And then I'm learning flying as well. And then the PhD was on environmentally safe engines, and we worked on contrail-free aero engines. So contrail, you have seen, is the white line behind an aircraft with the smoke that comes out. And that is basically frozen water vapor, because the content, the hydrocarbon byproduct, fuel burn byproduct, is water vapor and carbon dioxide. So at, when the plane releases it, it is just like, an artificial cloud, and that has a global warming potential. So it creates global warming in the atmosphere, which is 5 times more than that of carbon dioxide. So during my PhD, I designed an engine. I was also supported by my father during my PhD, because I did part of my PhD in Pakistan. I had a very young daughter to look after. So he came up with this invention, which is like a turbo machinery attached to an aircraft engine that processes exhaust emissions and converts them into liquid water, so that you don't get contrails. And when you don't get contrails, you don't get global warming. So this was like a design that was addressing the sustainable development goal of global warming and climate change. And then because it had a lot of commercial promise, and it had societal impact, global impact, which the university highlighted, and we decided to take this forward. There were 2 ways again to take it forward: either that we continue research on it, on future work and improvising, which is part of that is still being done at my university by, I'm a visiting academic there, so there are MSc students who do like part of that as a research for their masters on different domains. And then the other route was that we want to commercialize it. So we patented the technology, and we launched our company. We launched just aerospace R&D company, because earlier all the work in the aerospace sector is either in the defense domain or in the airline operation domain. Nobody's making engines, nobody's making aircraft. So we set up this R&D company to make this contrail-free aero engine that we want to market internationally, because this is like a global market. It is a global problem. It impacts everybody, right? So so this is like an example. What I'm telling you of deep tech entrepreneurship, and this is generally gauged with NASA's technology readiness levels. From technology readiness level is like 1 is like a concept, and 9 is the commercial launch. So from 1 to the mathematical modeling and simulation, 3 is simulation of your design. This is all what you do in research. And 4 is where you start prototyping, and then you prototype on the large scale. 5, at 6 you test on the ground, at 7 you test in the air, and by 9 you are flying successful missions for anything that has to get airborne. So up till TRL3, Technology Readiness Level 3, was what I did during my PhD. And then we went into the entrepreneurship route, and from 4 to 6 is where we developed the prototype, and we did component testing, and now we are doing the prototype testing. So we are at Technology Readiness Level 6. And within this academic entrepreneurship ladder, then we would be developing the full-scale prototype of our engine, and then we would be testing it in the air, and then we go through these certifications of the test, and then you know, you are able to market it, or you can launch the product commercially. So this is how deep tech entrepreneurship, or you know, entrepreneurship takes place for engineers who are into technology product development. So I think I've covered all of this as an application to my own startup, and now
We
can take questions, and I can also show you a company profile video if you know you want to learn more. And the other thing is that I've asked the organizers to share my social media handles. There's a YouTube channel where I keep posting aviation related content on different presentations and interviews on different topics, and then you know, some of them on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. So if you want to learn more or interact more, you can always do that, because here we have limited time to you know, there's a lot that needs to be said. So shall we go through the profile video first?
Yes, ma'am. I believe
how
we
about
can
we
do that.
take the questions first?
I think because the video will maybe answer some questions as well, so
Okay,
it would
that's
help.
fine.
Okay, because I'm using my phone, I'm going to try to share it. Okay. So turning on audio. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. We can see it. Would it be possible for you to rotate your phone? That way we could get a better view at the video.
Okay. Can you hear it as well?
No, ma'am. I do not think the audio is working properly right now, but we can see it.
I think here audio is on.
Right, ma'am. Ma'am, there may be some other issue we're not seeing right now, but I don't believe we have audio, but we can definitely see and read the text on the video.
Okay. Maybe I should just mute myself, then it would be better.
Ma'am, one thing you can do is you can send us the video and we can arrange to have it played with the audio and everything. And meanwhile, we could shift to a few questions while they get the video ready, if that's possible for you.
You're muted.
Yeah, we can move on to questions now.
Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, so the first thing I'd really like to ask you about is, as you know, the most crucial part of a new startup, a new business, is the very initial part. When you don't have the resources, you don't have a clear vision, that is when you need the most support. So how did you garner such support to get through that period? And how did you find the suitable people to, such as your co-founders, such as your initial team, to get through that period with?
Okay, I think you need to have the vision. That is what a startup is all about, right? As a founder, if you don't have the vision, then there is no point of startup. You need to have a vision. You need to be able to identify a problem. And in some startups, you know, people who have the vision and who identify the problem are not the people who address the problem in the technical sense. They're not the technical people, but generally in engineers, as engineers, you are strong on the technical side. So in our case, particular case, I think we were both, like myself and my father is my co-founder, we were both technical people. We had a very, very strong technical team. We had the vision. We knew what we wanted to do. But the business side was something that we had to learn. Like I was incubated at the National Incubation Center in Lahore. That's in LUMS. And that's where we attended a foundation course on entrepreneurship, and you know there was some mentoring by business professionals, and that's where we learned the business side. So this is something which is different for everybody. Some people have a very strong, generally non-engineers have a strong big business side, but then they have to know the technical side. But I think it is a very big advantage if you are strong in terms of entrepreneurship and you are strong in your core content. Like if you are a technical tech startup, then if you know and have the know-how of the tech, or you are strong in the tech domain, that is where your advantage is. And you know the other, like we are a tech intensive startup, so we are basically strong in that area, but you know other sides we have built up. And then team building is very, very critical. A lot of people have this tendency that they want to do everything themselves, but you always need the right kind of people in your team to bring it to a level that it can achieve. And everybody cannot do everything by themselves, and that's something that you need to realize. You need to realize your strengths and your weaknesses, right? Where your strengths are, what you can do, and where you need professional help. So you have to get through that.
Right. Thank you for answering that. I'll take the next question. So you talked about human resources and how they play such an important role. After human resources, I think the second most important thing is the material resources. And as we all know, being Pakistanis, there's not much research being done in material sciences as such. So how did you source your raw materials, and what challenges, if any, did you face in that process?
Okay, yes, for any tech intensive startup, I think the like if you talk about the budget, like 40% of your budget goes into the human resource. It has to be specialized, right? Then the next 40% goes into your equipment and your materials. Like you need advanced machinery, you need CNC machines, manufacturing facilities, manufacturing machines for developing your product. So yes, in Pakistan, this is a challenge. I wrote an article on this as well. Like with startups generally, with entrepreneurs, usually they have a concept of a maker's lab within universities where they facilitate young entrepreneurs, because they cannot invest very heavily into materials and equipment. So they facilitate with precision manufacturing and with precision machinery, where you can get Arabic channel. Or the other is that a lot of resource that is available commercially with big infrastructures, like we have big infrastructures in Pakistan, like PIA or HIT or Kamra or whatever. Generally abroad, the model is that they also facilitate, even on a charge, they facilitate commercial companies so that they can get their jobs done. But in Pakistan, there is no such policy that exists for such big infrastructures which have the sophisticated machinery. So it is a challenge. Whatever you have to get done is like either you have to do it in-house, like we are doing 90% or maybe 95% of our work in-house. We have our own CNC machines, we have our own facility for welding, for machining, we outsource casting. So we outsource some things, but we always have to, rely on the private vendors and commercial vendors. There are limited, and there's even no catalog or a database of the available vendors in different, who are into different manufacturing skills and manufacturing setups, who do different kind of, like if we have to get spinning, we need somebody else. For casting, we need somebody else. We have to get balancing. So these are the challenges. It has been very, very challenging in that respect, and primarily not because Pakistan does not have the right resource, but because we don't have the right policies towards the resource. The government has a lot of resource. There are some government institutions who have a lot of complex machinery and underutilized equipment and machinery, but there is no policy where they would be helping the commercial or the private sector to, even on charges, to make use of their machinery to develop their products.
Right. I think adding on to that, you must have faced a lot of challenges when it comes to testing the concept, because I know that Pakistan does not have a civilian engine testing facility. So how did you test your concept in Pakistan?
We are testing in house right now, but for now the prototype size is excuse me, not that big. So we are managing. But I think as a startup in Pakistan, like I believe that, when I was abroad, like I was also looking at setting up this company abroad, and the stage was pretty much set. Like you had the resource, you had the facility, you just had to do your job. But here, like before performing, you have to set your stage, you have to do the lighting, you have to do everything. So we had to set up our facility, we had to buy machinery, we buy machinery from the local market, we import machinery, we do all kinds of things. We buy the tools, and then, so there's a lot of infrastructure development that is required. That has its advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that you develop a capability and you are more technically sound, because you understand every technique, every process very deeply. But and then, like, because in R&D you keep designs keep changing, there's always inventions, more innovations, modifications. So all these are like, you have an in-house facility, so you can keep using it in real time instead of outsourcing your work. So it saves time, but it is in a way, it takes time to develop capability, and it takes a lot of money, right? So those are the disadvantages. Then that is like, if you want to bring a product bring a product into a market quickly, then you are not able to, because then there is a time lag in that respect.
Right. So why did you choose to patent your product in Pakistan and not UK? And why did you choose Pakistan as your base location for launching your startup?
We didn't patent our product in Pakistan. We patented it in UK. The reason is that initially the research was carried out in UK, and there is no aviation industry. It has no relevance to Pakistan. There is no industry who is going to challenge it in Pakistan. Nobody is making aircraft engines. All the aircraft engines are being made in UK, in US, in Europe. So that's where the market is, and that's where the all the intellectual property is. So that's why we decided to market it in UK and not in Pakistan. And secondly, the Pakistani system is anyways, the IP patent office is, we did have some experience with them, but it was not a very pleasant experience. They're not very well equipped, or I don't know, well versed in patenting these kind of technologies, and they're very slow, like a typical government setup. But primarily it didn't make any sense to patent it here. And why did we set up the company in Pakistan? Because again, I think because we are Pakistanis, and we want this product to be launched in the world from Pakistan. And then in Pakistan, there is, you know, when you have experience of a particular market, you know how the system works, how the market works. You have a commercial business network. I am talking about the commercial. You know, we know that the industry is within Gujranwala, where you get things done. So there is that, but mainly so because we want to bring aviation into Pakistan, and we want this trend, because otherwise in Pakistan, you know, what we are doing is we just have turnkey projects. Like we import the entire factory from abroad, we just buy it. Okay, so that is like a turnkey project, and but you cannot grow with turnkey projects. You have to start as it's like, you know, like you grow a plant, like you plant a seed of research, you grow a plant, then that plant multiplies, and you grow a forest. Like you can't import a forest and plant it. It does not work. That is the reason, main reason we are not developing, we are not progressing in the technology side, because we just want, you know, we don't understand the technology from teaching side. And it is unfortunate that we are not even focusing on tech-based startups and products. And we are also, I mean, most of the startups that I looked into, like when I was at the incubation sector, they were just mobile applications. That's it. So what if China stops, you know, bans the import of mobiles? What are you going to do? You don't have a base. So you have to start with the base, and that is the difference between Pakistan and other countries who are developed, because they start as a nursery, as a small, you know, as a small R&D organization that builds its capabilities and grows into a big organization. We have examples of Microsoft, Amazon. There's so many applications. They are not. None of them landed from the sky. None of them were like big infrastructures in the government. They grew organic, and we need to get into this concept, because even a lot of people say, okay, let's not develop this, just import it from China, or just, you know, import and assemble from China. Like now with the COVID, we know that a lot of, you know, trade was affected with China. It could be affected because of trade policies. So you don't. It's not a strength. That's not a strength. And we have a policy which is, you know, this is a US concept. It's mainland Pakistan, that everything that we develop should either be, you know, we develop it in-house, should be developed in Pakistan, or at least should be off the shelf available in Pakistan. Like if you use a battery or a component, a starter motor from an engine, car engine, that's like there are 1,000 suppliers who have these off-the-shelf components. We can use it. But if you use a very specific rocket that you have to import from China or elsewhere in the world, you cannot commercialize. It's not possible, and that's not the solution. So we are also trying to develop our capabilities, and we also involve other vendors to make products that they haven't made earlier, but we want somebody to make DC motors. We want, people to do a specific material machining, specific engine specific alloy machining. So we try to help them to develop these products as well.
Right. That's a very good point, ma'am, and something which you all think about definitely. Now, ma'am, shifting over to some of the questions we've received from the audience. One question that has stood out to me is that when you're an entrepreneur, it can often be the case that you're leading your team and you're tackling a complex problem that you yourself do not know exactly about. So in such a situation, how can you provide the proper guidance to your team while not having all the relevant knowledge about the problem at hand?
I think it's you cannot know everything, right? But you need to have the right approach to them and the right attitude. And I personally feel that people, the difference between success and failure is not education, is not knowledge, it's attitude. Sometimes, that there are engineers who are not very sound, but they have the right attitude to learn, and they develop the right approach to learn, to think and to find out solutions. So even if you are not, very well versed with a particular area of your startup, or that you don't get there. I mean, although I am, I have a technical background, but there are some areas I just don't have the time to get very deeply involved. I have to, just get an overview and guide other engineers to solve a problem, because I don't have the time. It's not just because I don't know. And maybe there are some areas, like we have some electronic side as well. My father looks after that, but when we develop engine controls and all that, but I also get involved, and I try to give them the right approach, because the approach is something which is very common. The solution finding approach, the methodology approach, how to address the problem, how to deal with it, how to document it properly, how to go step by step into your research and development, and how to troubleshoot step by step as well. So this is something that you would know. I mean, you should know, and that is how you can guide them. And there is always no harm in taking professional help uh, in areas that you don't know. This concept that you want to do everything yourself is not a good concept. I mean, if there are professionals who are doing it, they spend more time than you have, then you can integrate them into the team. You can give them some incentive to be a part of the team.
Okay, so the next question is from Isha Naeem, and I would like to club it with the question that Basir has asked. So both of them are interested in knowing that being in Pakistan, if you don't have the opportunity to go abroad and do an internship abroad, how do you fill the gap that exists in terms of R&D? Because not many companies in Pakistan are into research and development. So how do you fill that gap? And secondly, apart from military, what other ventures can aspiring aerospace engineers look into being in Pakistan?
Okay, if you can't go abroad, that's not a problem. People are making stuff. There is industry that exists in Pakistan. As an entry level graduate, you can learn. If you have the right attitude, you can learn anything, right? So it's not that there is zero opportunity here. There is opportunity. Even if you go into a maintenance section in PIA, you will learn a lot of aerospace design and engine design. Like I did my internship at the Honda motorbike plant. I took the initiative to be, to spend time in every department and take a hands-on approach. I assembled the engine myself. I assembled the motorbike on the assembly line myself. I rode the motorbike and tested it. I spent time in every section in the car plant as well. So if you are willing to learn, you will be surprised how many people are happy to teach you. So it's your attitude, it's your effort. Maybe you don't get like a worked out syllabus content that this is what you have to do. Maybe you have to make your own syllabus. and your own methodology, but there is opportunity. There's a lot of private industry in Gujranwala, in Sialkot, in Faisalabad, and they are all learning hubs. If you do your internship there, if you अगर आप जाके AC वाले कमरे में बैठना चाहते हैं, then that is your choice. उसका मैं कुछ नहीं कर सकती. You know, then that is not it. So you need to have a hands-on approach, and you have to have that. You need to have that strength, that integrity. That yes, you want to learn, and no hands in the pocket. You have to be hands-on. You have to move. You have to be involved with the machinery and with the tools, and that's how you learn. Like in our setup, because there's so much machinery, it's not air conditioned, and we spend 8 hours, 9 hours in that setup. I don't have a air conditioner in my office because I have to interact and I have to be with the people, and I want to be in the same environment. But so that's how engineering is, and it is only rewarding as an engineering field if you are willing to take these challenges at least early on in your life as a fresh engineer.
Thank you. Thanks for answering that in detail. I have another very good question from Moise.
अच्छा, aerospace का पूछ रहे थे. Aerospace का Camera does offer internships. There's PIA, there's Camera. There's some academic institutions like IST University. They have their labs. So if you just want to do an internship and you want to learn, there are places where you can learn. There are not too many, unfortunately, but still, I think there are some setups in Lahore, in Islamabad, in Karachi, where there is a possibility to learn. Even if you go to flying schools, they have a maintenance section. They have a maintenance department. I mean, there's plenty of opportunity and plenty of knowledge out there, which is untapped.
Okay, so I'll move on to the question from Moise. He asked that entering a business is very risky. So what was your backup plan, and how much was your startup influenced by your flying experience?
Okay, as far as flying experience is concerned, yes, these are all activities which complement the profession. Like, at my university, they used to give like 2 flights, experience flights to all students, so that they understand that, how does, what they are making, what they're designing, how does it fly, how does it behave, and they could ask questions. So yes, they complement each other very much. And later on, inshallah, when we get into the testing phase and airborne testing phase, they will complement. As far as entering a business is concerned, yes, there's always a risk, but high risk, and you can only generally businesses they teach you that you always need to plan an exit strategy, that for God forbid, for any reason, if you do need to close down your business and you need to exit your business, what is going to be your way forward? So you plan that exit strategy. So because we are a tech intensive company and we hold patents, so the patents have a lot of value. We can always sell patents, but that's now as usually not the way we think. That we hope that we will succeed and we will keep working. And generally the tech industry is not very, it's not like it would come like in retail and all, they on the commercial side, they think that it's, things get cash flow positive within a year, but product development, it has a long timeline. Even aerospace industry has very long timelines. People are like, they're flying planes that were designed 50 years ago. Mirage was designed 50 years ago. planes flying in the air were designed 20 years ago. So this is very normal for the aviation industry. It takes time to develop a product, to test it, and it has to be fail safe and airworthy. So it has to, be certified. That also takes time.
Right.
Sure. Ma'am, I'd like to step in and ask another question we have from Ataur Rahman. And he asked, if someone has a social startup in Pakistan, then should he pursue an incubation center for the initial growth period, or is there some other method that you suggest?
I think incubation centers in Pakistan, they offer good mentoring facilities. They offer a good network. You connect with people. They're not really offering funding. Nobody's getting good funding here, and the investors are not really investing in Pakistan, not at least in tech, entrepreneurship. They want to go into this other side or IT-based platforms or mobile platforms where they have a comfort level and they think that they would get a return within 3 years. But tech product development is long, and we really don't, unfortunately, have the mindset to invest into it. But incubation centers are good because one, they give you good networking. They give you a good enabling environment. You're with the right kind. They connect you with the right kind of people, and they have some mentoring, good mentoring from experts in different fields, and then they also connect you to experts in different fields. So that is why it is much better than starting from home. If you are connected, linked to an incubation center, it's a very good idea. But in terms of funding, you shouldn't have your hopes very high.
Right.
Ma'am,
Another question, Suleiman, would you like to take it, or can I?
Sure, I'll go ahead.
About funding, or generally पहला सवाल funding के ऊपर होता है. Funding कैसे लेनी है?
Yes,
right.
Yeah, if you could shed some light on that.
अच्छा, in Pakistan, as I mentioned, कि इतनी opportunity नहीं है. Like अगर funding मिलती भी है, तो tech entrepreneurship को, product based entrepreneurship को नहीं मिलती. Because people don't understand those technologies, investors don't understand, so they don't feel comfortable investing, and then they want quick returns. So it takes time to develop a product, so you can't get like a return within 3 years. So if they do invest, they invest in other service industry or I don't know, fashion industry or whatever, other kinds, but not technical. Tech industry, deep tech industry mein nahi hota. So the best way forward is to either like bootstrap your system. Bootstrapping is like you start small, with whatever little investment that you can make, you develop your product to a certain level, and there you can sell it and get at least launch yourself. Once you're launched and you have a working product, then it's easier to tap avenues abroad. Because I applied for a women. We didn't have a lot of funding, but we applied for a women entrepreneurship program that was from Karandas, that was supporting women entrepreneurs. So they gave a very modest amount, something that they would be giving. They gave women to make handbags or clothes. They gave that amount to me to make a jet engine. But it doesn't make sense, right? So that's not, because if you use such limited resource, it takes a lot of time. So it took us a lot of time, but we were at least able to launch ourselves with that limited funding and develop our product. Now, once our prototype is ready, it's in the testing phase, then we can present it internationally and collaborate and get more funding. And then, with this grant of the other patent and supersonic engines, that's something we can sell. We plan to sell and raise money for our startup. But that is the realistic side of investments in Pakistan. If you're planning to start your own, develop your own product, then this is probably the wiser to take rather than just wait for some investor to invest into your idea. I mean, you would need to probably develop one product and sell that product and maybe get orders for the same product and get some advance for development of the product, but you will not, it is very, very difficult that you would get funding for an idea that you want to develop.
Right. So
Because agency is giving some funding, but they usually do the research, and you have to be a part of a faculty in the university. It's not for commercial companies, and these kind of things cannot be developed within the academic environment. If you want to make a commercial product, then you have to be on the business side. Then there's another organization in Pakistan which is called IMechE. They have some funds, but they just want to fund IT. They don't want to fund anything outside IT. So there are funds, people are sitting on a lot of money, which is unfortunate, but not investing in stuff.
okay, so I'll share a question that Mubashir has asked. He wants to know, at what point in your startup does one decide if they should open source their technology or keep it restricted?
It depends. It depends.
What was your approach towards it?
We have restricted it. We have patented our technology because it's very specialized technology. But maybe sometimes your strength is not. Sometimes the strength is in the idea that you have to safeguard. Sometimes the strength is in the capability of developing it. Right? I mean, there are standard models like. We give this example. Everybody knows that you can make diamonds from coal, right? But it's a very expensive method. So, but it's a standard method. Even the standard jet engine, it's a standard design. It's a very simple design, but nobody has been able to develop a jet. We've developed Pakistan's first jet engine. And the pure, I mean, not the invention or contrary invention, but the normal pure jet engine is just a standard design all over the world. People are making it. In Pakistan, they are unable to make it. It's not because there's no patent issue or intellectual property issue. It's because the manufacturing constraints, the material constraints, the availability of off-the-shelf components like high temperature bearings, DC motor, these are the constraints. So it's how well you navigate around those constraints by developing in-house capability or, finding vendors or developing your vendors or whatever, howsoever you do it. But the design is like all over the world. So it really depends. I mean, a lot of things like, for example, a car. Everybody knows how to make a car. It's all over. It's a standard design, but Pakistan hasn't been able to make a car. So there are other reasons. There are political reasons. There are policy issues. There are investment issues. And the policies are sometimes such that we always, as I said, import turnkey. Like some company will come from abroad and they would set up a car plant. And the day they want, they will, wrap up their car plant. And if something goes wrong, experts will come from abroad to fix that thing. So that's not really capable. You have maybe a 2-room workshop, but you can make your own car. That's something. Then you have the capability and you have the control. You're not dependent on it.
Right. So ma'am, since a lot of our audience consists of students, we've all obviously received a lot of questions about internships and especially internships in the aerospace sector. So Basir Siraj asks, is your company open to internships, and is this something that you offer to young students?
No, we are not in open to internships because we are a small company. We have a highly specialized work. We can't afford to, invest. Like we don't have the time to, take students. Yes, I was thinking of a program that if we do an internship program, we would probably uh, charge the students, because generally at early stage students, they have this very for granted attitude, and they think that as I mentioned, the difference between big companies and small companies. So with small companies, they think that uh, they are inferior, although you get more learning there. And in multinationals, although you are just sitting in an air conditioned room, but you are doing photocopies. So I've always had experienced a lack of the right attitude and um, with entry level graduates. But we would, if we start a program, it's going to be a charge program that, if somebody wants to learn from us, then they have to pay us for. I mean, you want to come and learn for 1 month, we charge you some amount and you can come and learn. Because startups have limited resources, they have limited space, so they can't really afford this. Not possible. So even with, if we hire entry level graduates, we have to really teach them a lot before they are really able to, provide us the right output. And so in that case, they have to sign a minimum of a year's contract. Otherwise, it's not feasible for us to, teach something and then they just use us as a launching pad and they move on to another company. It doesn't make sense. So we definitely require commitment. And secondly, with big companies, because they have a lot of resource for everything and they can absorb people leaving or whatever, but smaller companies can't. They have limited resource. Everybody has to work very seriously with a lot of dedication.
Okay, so I'll take this
I'm not
opportunity to
sure
ask
how
you the
many
last.
people willing to pay and learn at a company. I'm not sure if that will work with anybody.
I'm
It's
sure
just
you'll be
like,
getting a lot of queries after this webinar.
you pay a university to learn. They teach you something, you pay them, right? So if you want to go into a company and you want to learn, and then maybe if they're spending time, because I haven't had very pleasant experiences in that. But there are people, like, you see, we don't value time. Time has a word. My time has a word, right? If I was working in the UK, I would get maybe 100 pounds for 1 hour, right? And if I've given, how much time have I given you today? We started at 10 minutes past 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
almost what?
5:40.
1.5 hours. So how many pounds have I given you? How much money? Just let me know how much in um, rupees, right?
Yeah.
Time is expensive. So we have to respect everybody's time and we have to value everybody's time. Initially, I used to take like we had some experience with internees, and they would always just I would spend time with them, I would teach them, and then they would not want to stay. So that's not fair on me, right? So I have a right to charge for my time. And I don't know if you are recording this session. Like, I've taken sessions with other students and they don't even bother to record the session. So, because if there's one session that you do for students and it's recorded, it can be used again and again. And, sometimes with my recordings, I also refer it to people to, if they can use it for, if they ask me the same questions, I can always send it by this.
So speaking of time, we won't take more of your time, and I would just like to ask you
Okay,
the last question.
I'm lucky today because there is somebody else who is preparing
Mhm.
iftar. So we can do up till maybe 15 more minutes
Okay, that's
because
great.
then
So
we would
yeah,
then it's asr time also. But you'll
yeah,
have to excuse me for 2 minutes. I'll just be back. I just
sure.
have to check up on my daughter. Okay, give me a
Okay.
minute.
Right. So as we wait for ma'am to return, I would just like to inform our audience that there were a lot of questions we received from you all, and of course there were some that we could not get to in time. So we're sorry for that. Inshallah, we will try to include those questions in the next episodes of our podcast series. So please do attend those, and inshallah we will be wrapping up soon.
So I'm back. If there are more questions.
Right. So very quickly, I'm just going to ask you the last question from our audience, and that is related to you being a female engineer in a highly male-dominant field, and more
Mhm.
so, you started your own business in this very competitive sort of environment for females, especially. So, would you like to talk a bit about that journey, and what if there's any message that you would like to give out to female engineers in particular?
Okay, female, and I'm also reading. Acha, this is a direct question. Okay, so
Can you please turn the video on?
sorry, I was reading your chat. Okay, so basically, you want something for the female engineers.
Yes, like what struggles, I'm sure there were many that you faced being a female in such a male dominant field. So if you have any message for the younger female
Okay,
engineers.
yes, struggles. You feel struggles started very early. The first thing I think was when they said we don't want to take girls into mechanical. So we had to, fight our way through that. Then being the only girl in the class, and but that also had its benefits. Like I learned more because I was doing everything independently. You're not doing things in a group. Uh, so I learned. I did my final year project single-handedly. So I learned a lot there. There was more focus, less talking, less chatting, more focus on work. So that's the advantage. Then I also had a lot of support. Like my teachers were very supportive all through, and I think uh, yeah, maybe if you just look at the challenges and the support always outweighs the challenges. The challenges are there, but challenges are a part of life. They're, whatever path you choose, they would be there.
And adding
Then I
on to that,
think
how do you balance your career and your personal life now?
yes,
Like,
I
how do
was
you?
coming to that. I think
Mhm.
the next challenge is basically that comes, as I said, that um, first of all it's the uh, perception, and then later in life. But I think for the perception, if you, as I always highlight, that professions have to be gender neutral. If you are an engineer, you just have to be a professional engineer. It does not matter if you are a woman or you are, and everybody should give you that attitude. I try to give that attitude to everybody. To me, it does not matter, if it's a girl or a boy or whoever. I'm looking at an engineer, I'm dealing with an engineer. So that is, so if you yourself as a woman maintain a professional attitude, then the industry also maintains a professional attitude. Like I experienced that when I did my internships in factories. I worked in factories, in companies, and they were all male dominated. There was hardly any girl on the technical side. There were some in the office. Sometimes there were no girls, and just being even in my class there was no other girl, but I've always tried that I'm just a professional engineer, that's it, and I'm here to learn, and it does not matter. So if you are a professional, then other people also treat you professionally, they take you seriously. Even in my own company, um, I think they think of me as a professional, and that's how we interact with uh, other staff members. And then, so that's one thing. Then later in life, I think for women, what happens is that in our cultures, basically, there are two things. One is that, we as students and before we start our family life and before marriage, we are very focused just on our studies. We don't try to develop a dynamic personality. We are not involved with the life around us, with our household. We are like, we just, our life around revolves around us. We just study, um, we do whatever we have to do. We don't know, food is served to us on the table. Everything is taken care of. So till, so you don't really know how to balance or multitask. But when you enter the practical life and you have a family, then that there's no way out. You have to manage a household, you have to look after your children, and if you want to maintain a profession, you have to manage them. But if you are not trained to do that, or you are not used to doing that from a very early age, or before entering practical life, then you are unable to do it later in life as well. So I think I was used to this because my mother was a working woman as well. She was a professor in the university, so I was very involved in the household and in a lot of other activities other than my uh, work. So and my studies. So I think that really helped me later after you know starting a family, that I was able to manage my daughter and my work. That having that kind of a dynamic personality and working towards developing it is. Thirdly, I think the issue for the girls, there are two other issues. One is the social issue that we have sometimes for women we have unnecessary expectations, and we burden them with unnecessary responsibilities, and that has to do with the culture, that we have a bit of the Hindu culture here and the subcontinent culture. It does not have anything to do with the Islamic values. We don't really know where what responsibilities. Everything is her responsibility. The entire extended family is her responsibility. Then obviously the profession suffers. And the fourth thing, the last thing, is that a lot of women, they think that because they don't have to earn, so there is no need to work. But you see, if you're spending, Allah Ta'ala is up with the mark here, you have used a resource, you're going to a government engineering or medical school, you've used a resource, you spent 5 years there, then if you don't have a right to waste it. So even if you don't have financial responsibilities, but at least don't waste your capabilities. Put them to good use for your country, for your family, for the society, for humanity in general, because that is it's like carrying a responsibility.
Thank you, ma'am. And with that, I believe we've reached the end of today's event. On behalf of IMechE Pakistan, I extend our sincerest gratitude towards our respected and multi-talented guest, Dr. Sara Qureshi. Ma'am, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. It always gives us immense pride and joy to be able to host someone of such caliber and to learn from their life experiences. We hope that the event was to your liking as well, and we wish you the very best of luck as you continue with your endeavors.
Okay, thank
To
you
our
very
audience,
much. Thank you for inviting me. And I wish my very best wishes to all students, all aspiring professionals. And I wish you all a lot of success. Do think over these things, these points, and do some deep thinking and make your career choices wisely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Definitely a pleasure.
Thank you. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.
Now,
Everyone, thanks for joining us.